Hello and welcome to the Game Theory Podcast. I'm your host, Sam Vicini. We're presented by CLNS Media. Today on the show, we've got good friend of the program, Cole Zwicker, returning to talk about some of his Summer League thoughts, notes, etc. I think that Cole probably attended more Summer League games than any person at Summer League. Maybe any person that decided to make that trip out into the hellhole that is Las Vegas. So, I mean, Cole, how many games of Summer League did you see in person?
Oh, God. I went every day, all day when I was there, and I was there for a week. I got in, went to Friday's games, and then went through Wednesday. So I think I saw every game. Of course, you can't see both games at once, but I kind of walked in between during halftime at times. But I saw, on average, I saw 5 games a day. So I was pretty much engaged the entire time, at least tried to be. Coffee there is a huge lifesaver. I mean, they had like a Pete's coffee stand. I was running there in between games to stay awake, but it was fun.
Yeah, you did too much of that. You did the most at Summer League, and I don't do that when I go to Summer League. Like I'll go back and watch tape of Summer League, and like I'll be watching for some small stuff, you know, like the great BJ Mullins explosion of 2018 whenever he played for Orlando at Summer League. But like like if I'm gonna actually try and evaluate dudes, like I will go back and watch a bunch of tape on them. Like I can't do it at Summer League just because there are too many people around. It's a really great opportunity to go out and chat with folks. Like there's just a lot there's a lot going on, and it's a really, really fun event.
It really is, and I think if you get sidetracked talking to guys, it's really hard to stay focused. I tried to meet with as many people as I could while watching the actual games, and even that's hard to maintain focus legitimately on both topics. So I get why people get distracted. Summer League's a lot of like social events. It's meeting people. It's that kind of networking status. I tried to just fixate on the games, but even I got caught up in it, like watching games as well. I would have like a side conversation with some people. So I think that's what makes it so fun is you can do both. I tend to favor trying to see guys in person as much as possible.
Yeah, and look, like I'm not sitting here saying that like I'm not watching the games, but you know, it's a really good opportunity to go out and chat and hang out and just kind of be with people, and you know, be with people in the basketball community, and it's a really great community to be a part of. So your thoughts are going to be a lot more in depth on this than mine will, although I do have some takes, I will say, on Summer League. So where do we want to start? I will give you the floor. Who was the most impressive, let's say rookie? Who was the most impressive rookie at Summer League for you?
Really quick before we get into there, I just want to touch on one thing. Just putting things in context. Like, what do you look for? Yeah. Just as far as philosophy approach, I think this is kind of important for listeners to kind of, you see a lot of grandiose statements, a lot of dealing in absolutes as far as, you know, somebody's star, they have busts, winners and losers, all of this stuff. How do you really approach Summer League as far as being a legitimate evaluation sample? Yeah,
I just want to see how they, I guess, look athletically on the floor in comparison to the much higher step up athletically in terms of competition, how they look physically on the floor, how comfortable they are immediately to reacting to what's happening around them on the floor. I mean, stats, we'll talk a lot about the stats that kind of occurred during Summer League just because I think it does help. Stats always help put things into context for people, I think. But, you know, at the end of the day, I'm a lot more worried about just kind of guys getting comfortable, especially as rookies, guys showing that they can at least, play on this level that is a clear step up from college basketball. I mean, like, people talk about college basketball as being this, you know, incredible tool. I mean, Summer League is a considerably higher level than college basketball is. And it really helps to see how these guys look within that context of playing against better players. And, you know, once you get into year 2, year 3, and boy, will we talk about year 3 with Dragan Bender, you need to be playing at a considerably higher level than those around you, I think, to show that you can be a very real contributor to an NBA team.
Yeah, I think Summer League tells you more about who can't play than who can necessarily. If you kill Summer League, we've seen that in the past, doesn't necessarily equate to success at the next level as far as a step up in the actual NBA league. I don't think it's a bad thing necessarily. Of course, if somebody plays well, it's only good. And I get what you're saying, and I agree with mostly everything you said as far as looking for the athletic adjustment. How well does this guy really compare against more NBA-like athletes? I do think you can still take observation. If you don't think you can derive anything of value from Summer League, I don't know why people would watch. Frankly,
you can
observe a guy. So I'm of that camp too, but I'm also not in the camp of like putting a ton of stock into it. Like I don't know if I look at Summer League and say this like 4 or 5 game sample really changes the way I feel about a prospect dynamically as far as, if they disappointed, are they going to be a bust? No, I don't think that holistic way of just kind of looking at it conclusory, like this guy's going to be something, this guy's going to be this at the next level. I don't think that's the way to look at it. But I especially think Summer League is more important for the returning veteran players. Like Derek White was really, really impressive. Josh Hart, those guys, you want to see that progression in their game. I thought a lot of the veteran guys, Jonah Bolden, for example, didn't look as good to me. Caleb Swanigan, same. They looked better actually last Summer League for me personally than, like you already mentioned, in Bender. So I think for the veteran guys, you look at it, you want to see progression in their game. If they're not playing well, like that's a cause for concern.
Yeah, and I guess we should start probably with Josh Hart if we're going to do a real Summer League discussion, because Josh Hart is the MVP of the Las Vegas Summer League. He played 6 games in Vegas, averaged 24 points, 5 rebounds, and 2 assists on a 62% true shooting percentage. He is an adult playing among children in this setting. He's unbelievably good. He is very clearly the best player there.
Yeah, Hart was really impressive. I think as Summer League progressed, it looked like he was the best player there. We saw some stuff of him offensively. He doesn't get a chance to really show last year at the Lakers. His role is more refined, of course. He's not the dynamic creator he is in Summer League on the actual team because they have more scoring on their big roster. But we saw the pull-up jumper with him. Seemed like he was really good getting to the rim and kind of finishing around the basket. I think his finishing ability has actually been historically underrated. He's just really strong, has good body control, uses his body really well there. I think just offensively, we saw a lot of the ways that he can add value. And again, he's dealing with a more select role, playing for the Lakers, playing off LeBron. But if he's adding these little intricate, nuanced abilities via attacking closeouts, for example, maybe playing some secondary pick and roll, he's just really impressive.
Yeah, I would very much not want to get rid of him if I was the Lakers.
No.
He is really just kind of the perfect player to put next to LeBron. Like, I'm not saying that you value him over Brandon Ingram or anything, but like, he is a genuinely perfect wing to play next to LeBron James.
And I think he's right there with Kyle Kuzma as far as the pecking order with the Lakers. Like there are some situations where I would take Josh Hart over Kyle Kuzma. I just think that Hart is that good. He's in that same caliber of prospect to me. They really nailed the draft last year with those 2 picks.
Yep.
And Hart's a legitimate piece moving forward for them. Like he's a real player.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Who else impressed you in your time out in Las Vegas? Well, I guess, do you want to start in Utah? Realistically, because I know that you love Derek White, just as I do, and I think it's probably worth bringing him up, given his performance in Utah.
Exactly right. I think he was the next guy I was going to touch on for the sophomores. Just really, his skill level and his feel really stand out in a Summer League setting. He just really knows what he's doing on the floor. He can make reads and pick and roll. We saw his kind of dynamic pull-up ability. He doesn't have the most deceptive shake, but he's really good on pull-up shots, and he can shoot off motion. We just saw a lot of different elements of his game. I think he's going to play a role for the Spurs this year. He's kind of the forgotten guy. He didn't get a lot of time last season, but even in the game he appeared in the playoffs against the Warriors, I thought he really held his own. He's a potential kind of 2-way combo guard. Not going to be a dynamic defensive player, but he knows where to be. He's pretty solid there, maximizes his athleticism. I was really impressed with him every time I saw him. He was mostly the best player on the floor whenever he played in either Utah or in Vegas. He's just really impressive.
Yeah, no, I agree. I thought he was very, very good every single time he was on the floor. He's a guy that I was a huge fan of coming into his pre-draft process. I think I had him as a top 17 player on my board. So really, really interesting combo guard, almost more than being a true wing at 6'5". Very, very skinny still, but if he can bring anything defensively, we know that he can shoot. We know that he can really, really pass the ball out in, I believe it was in Salt Lake City. He averaged 7 assists, averaged 6.7 rebounds, 23 points. He was a monster in Salt Lake City. So I would expect him to be a very real rotation player for them this year.
Yeah, it's a great schematic fit for him, too, because they can really leverage all of his ability to dribble, pass, and shoot in that scheme. He doesn't have to be like a dynamic 1-5 pick-and-roll creator where I don't think he has the necessary burst, really, to thrive in that setting. But he is going to, within the scheme of an offense, I do think he has some two-way ability. Great pick by them. I thought he was a steal on draft night. And he looks to me making progressions, even at his older age, that he needed to make. He's 24 years old. He has to hit now, and you'd like to see that progression with an older player like that.
You mentioned Jonathan Isaac as well. I thought I didn't really get all of the Isaac hype while he was out in Vegas. I will say this. Isaac he's a really good player, and I'm still a big fan of his future because I think he's going to be more of a two-way playmaking four who can do a lot of different things. But offensively, he got to the foul line a bunch and didn't shoot it all that well. I'm still not a believer in the 3-point shot of his, really. I'm not saying that he had a bad Summer League. I just think it was what was expected for a number 6 overall pick in Summer League year 2.
I think the shooting is the point here that kind of goes against him from 3 especially. I did think he showed a lot of progression actually with his pull-up shot from mid-range, and he looked bigger. He's definitely starting to fill out more. He looked like a bigger player as far as frame, and he did show the ability to create his own shot in certain select situations. He's more comfortable right now from mid-range, doesn't have the 3-point range, but I liked what I saw from him offensively as far as taking some of the steps. Never going to be a dynamic creation guy, but if he's a 4 or a small ball 5 and he can shoot like that, I think that's going to be a really nice weapon for Orlando moving forward. I loved his defense. I thought his defense was... I thought he was the best defensive player in the 2017 class, and I felt like that was confirmed kind of in Summer League. I mean, obviously you're not going to use a sample to confirm something, but he looked like that player to me when they matched up against Jaren Jackson, for example. His team defense, really high-level impact there. So I was pretty impressed with him outside of the 3-point shooting. He's never going to be a high-level passer or creator for others or stuff like that, but for what he is as a player, I think he can be pretty special, and he's kind of a rare commodity.
Yeah, I mean, again, defensively, I'm with you. He's going to be an excellent defender. I've very few concerns on his defensive ability, but I don't want to say super concerned about the offense, but I think that the offense is not elite by any stretch, and I'm worried about him being a starting caliber player offensively.
He has to shoot threes. I mean, that's the next progression. He has to be able to space the floor if he's going to be an off-ball player at the 4 with the ability to situationally handle the ball. I think he is a good enough handle in a pull-up game to run a pick and roll. I just think there's a little bit more versatility to his offensive game, but yeah, a lot is going to hinge on how much progression does he make as a 3-point shooter, because his mechanics, I think they're fine. It's not great, but it just hasn't really translated to 3 in the way that you'd hope.
Let's move on. Was there anyone else that you thought was really, really impressive at Summer League in the multi-year guys, not the super young guys?
I think we got to mention John Collins here.
Oh yeah,
his mechanics were fantastic looking in person. Watching him shoot up close, I think that he's going to be able to shoot threes pretty well. I liked a lot of what I saw from him, even defensively making some rotations. He's definitely athletic. If he can shoot the ball, he's going to be a really nice pick and roll pairing with a Trae Young moving forward. I think that he gives you a little bit of an Amari Stoudemire-esque game with his athleticism, finishing on short rolls and lob threat. He can just do a lot of different things offensively, and his defense impressed me more. We know he can rebound. He's productive. He's a great athlete. It's going to come down to how well his defense progresses overall, but he definitely killed in Summer League.
Yeah, Justin Jackson, I thought, from Sacramento, looked pretty good. He put up 20 points, I believe, in 5 of the 6 games he played, something along those lines. I will say that, a lot of his translation comes back to the three-point shooting ability, and he only shot 32% from 3, but after a year where I thought he was in some trouble to continue maintaining a rotation spot in Sacramento, he at least showed the growth that I was hoping for from a guy who can be a rotation player.
Yeah, and he started out really slow, I think, in the Sacramento League. He had one. The first game was pretty horrible. He played better since. I'm still kind of dubious. His best skill is honestly coming off pin downs and hitting floaters. And while I think he can be, a rotation wing eventually, like you said, it's going to come down to how much you believe in the 3-point shooting. Can he shoot off motion at all? I don't think it's ever really going to come together for him on the defensive end as far as being, a plus defensive player. He might get to average level. If he can score proficiently, I think he's a rotation wing. He has the positional size. We'll kind of just see how the shot translates going forward.
And then the 2 guys on Cleveland that were great as second / is Chetty's in his second year still too, I believe. But Ante Zizic and Chetty Osman, I thought were both really, really good in the 2 games that they played each. Zizic, just was his efficient self. He looked a lot more comfortable this year at Summer League with the speed of the game. Last year at Summer League, he was a disaster. Everything was moving so quick. He was coming off of a long year in Europe, and it just wasn't the right setting for him to be successful. This time around, he averaged 20 points, 12.5 rebounds, 3.5 assists in his 2 games, and then Osman was 20 points, 8 rebounds, and I believe 4.5 assists. While shooting, a reasonable percentage inside the arc, despite shooting just 21% from 3. Both those guys looked way beyond Summer League, I thought.
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to see a lot of these guys. I don't think I saw Cedi Osman once up close. I saw Zizic play 1 game against the Bulls, I think, and he was huge. He's massive in person. As far as just positional size at the 5. Yep. He's fine moving forward. Just a couple rapid-fire questions. What did you think about Harry Giles' performance? He was kind of a guy who people had all over the board as far as evaluation. What did you think of him?
He was good. For a first time, adjusting to the speed of the NBA game at Summer League, he's essentially a rookie. He is a rookie. But, I thought he was totally competent. Everything he did, I thought, was a little bit better than what the Kings could have realistically hoped for.
I agree with you. I think relative to what you were expecting, just seeing any positive signs out of him was a positive, and I thought that his shot looked a lot better than I remember it being. As far as fluidity, he looked pretty decent on pick and pops. I'm not sure how real it's going to be moving forward, but at least he looks like he can shoot the ball. He definitely has the mobility defensively to be impactful there. I think his pick and roll coverages a lot of the times were poor, but he also did make some plays there. I didn't expect him to be high level. I think that's getting a little too nitpicky. You just want to see him look like he can be a productive player in the future, and he definitely flashed that ability.
Shot it a little bit from 3 too, which was nice.
Yep, definitely.
Why did Wayne Selden play Summer League?
He was good last Summer League. I would have just taken a rain check. He doesn't really need to prove anything. He
was their best wing last year. It was bananas.
Yeah, I agree. I think that some of these guys didn't need to play. Like Jordan Bell didn't need to play Summer League. We kind of what he can do. Hit that pull-up 3, I think, in Sacramento, which is just ludicrous. That's not a thing moving forward, obviously, but it's like if he starts making threes, that's going to be just a killer in retrospect for a lot of these teams.
Yeah, Derek Jones, I thought was interesting, looked super athletic. I think he averaged 18 and 6 or something over Miami's Summer League performances. Just a super athlete. And if he can shoot at all, he's very much an NBA player just because of that.
One of the most athletic players I've ever seen up close in person. I saw a game of his at Cox. It was actually the one right before he got injured. And my goodness, dude, his leaping ability, he's so quick off the floor. He's a freak show, man. And in Sacramento, I think he defended Bagley and held Bagley 3 points or whatever it was on 1 of 3 shooting. He's a real player, and I think that's exactly the kind of guy you want to take gambles on 2 ways. Of course, Miami gave him the guaranteed contract now, but that was a great get for them.
Yeah, I love that move for them. You always want to talk about Sterling Brown, so I will give you the floor to talk about Sterling Brown.
Did he eat Jabari Parker? This guy is huge, dude. He's too big. I think he's got to get in better athletic shape. He's going to be an important player for the Bucks this year. They need him to hit. They just need more of those two-way kind of wing guys. I'm a fan of his overall feel. He's got to shoot better. We saw him more in creation settings than he's going to be placed in. It's not like he's going to be running pick and roll. A lot of slashes to the rim. He's going to be more of a catch and shoot guy. Where I'm a big fan of his mechanics and stuff. I think he'll be fine. But man, he's got to get in better shape and kind of just because they're going to depend on him this year. I think that he's going to be a legit rotation piece for them. They need a couple of these guys to hit because they don't have the avenues to add more talent, and they're dependent on guys like Sterling who can play defense and shoot threes to surround Giannis with.
He definitely looked rather large. I will say that. He looked concerningly large.
Yeah, it was weird. Davon read pretty well. I think that was a good get for Phoenix. They pushed his guarantee date back a month. I think they're going to pick that up now. He shot really well. He's just kind of the guy they need on their team. Him and Mikal Bridges is kind of these two-way, don't use a lot of possessions, spot-up three-point shooting guys who can play, pretty high-level defense. Mikal's a team defender, of course, but just another wing like that. You can never have too many wings, and I think that he did himself, justice in Summer League.
Yeah, he might have, made himself more money officially than anyone at Summer League just because his contract was only $500,000 guaranteed if I remember correctly, and he legit might have earned that option being picked or that non-guarantee being picked up. Like he may have legit got himself like $900,000.
Yeah, and that was big for him. It's big for the Suns just having, wing depth and being one of the few teams that really does. Anybody stand out in like negative fashion? I already kind of glossed over Swanigan. He played better down the stretch in Vegas. I wasn't really huge on that pick at the time. I'm not huge on it now. Anybody else really stand out as maybe negatives? Like, where do you come down on TJ Leaf? Like, that's just the guy who was kind of all over the board for guys. Yeah,
I mean, I didn't really get that pick last year, and it didn't really play well whenever I saw him this time around at Summer League. It's a strength thing. It's he just doesn't seem to react well to what's happening around him on the floor, and that's a real significant issue, I think, if you're Indiana moving forward and hoping to have him as a part of your rotation. Now, they don't need him to be that this year because they went out and had one of the best off seasons in terms of building bench depth, but he just seems so sped up when he has the ball. And that is a major issue, especially when you throw in that he's not a great defensive rebounder. And I mean, he is yet to shoot well in any respect so far. Like, I know he made, I think, like maybe 40% of his threes last year on super small sample, but like anytime he's been thrust into a bigger usage role in Summer League, he has not been very good. So I'm pretty concerned, I would say, like just straight up. Like I am concerned that the speed of the game is a little too much right now.
Yeah, he played well against the Spurs, but that was a lot of bad Shemezi Metsu off-ball defense, like closeout stuff. I think that a lot of guys bought in after that game. I'm still pretty dubious. Another guy of that ilk, kind of the 4-only player moving forward, like positionally, is DJ Wilson. Not a great Summer League showing for him either. I'm not sure if that pick's going to look great in retrospect at number 17. I just don't know what his role is on that team, really. Like, Giannis is like the 4. Like, do you want to play DJ Wilson at the 5? He's not a good enough rebounder. He's not physical enough. I don't know. I was pretty dubious of that pick at the time, and he did not do much to shed that.
Yeah, I was not a huge fan of the DJ Wilson pick. I'll say that. Yeah, I haven't seen anything from him to make me think that it's going to turn out super, super well. I mean, he does rebound reasonably well for a 4, like a stretch 4. I mean, he has like a 19% defensive rebounding rate, in Summer League and even in the G League this year. I think it was right around like 16%, something like that. I mean, obviously the overall rebounding rate's going to be poor because he just isn't going to be around the basket for offensive rebounding opportunities. But I thought it was fine. Like, he didn't stand out. I will say that. Like, I don't think that he was someone that played well at Summer League. But I don't know that I would go as far as say, like, this guy played poorly at Summer League either.
That's fair. And just to we're jumping around a little bit, but some of the high-level guys, more high-profile second-year guys that played, Josh Jackson was kind of a really interesting case. He was
all over the place.
Really inefficient in Summer League as far as, I think he was 1 of 10 on pull-up shots, a lot of bad pull-ups. He did not finish around the rim well at all, 3 of 12 around the rim in the half court. He did some things in transition as far as knifing to the basket, but I was not super impressed with him. I think he kind of took on this, I'm the best player on the team in Summer League, I'm going to be a scorer, and he was just really inefficient in that role. I don't expect him to play that way for the Suns this year, but again, I wanted him to be more of like a playmaker type. I think that's what they need him to be, is more of a facilitator. He didn't play well.
Yeah, I was disappointed that he didn't facilitate more. He had 1.3 assists per game, so he had 4 assists over the course of the 3 games that he played. Obviously, the efficiency is an issue. I don't really care all that much about that for him because we know that he's struggling to shoot the ball right now. I think he's really trying to kind of change up his mechanics a little bit. It does look a little bit different than it did, for instance, at Kansas last year and even in the early portion of last season. So I'm not super concerned about the efficiency. I just wish that he would have played more team basketball, but to be honest, that might have been a construct of what, like Igor Kokoshkov wanted him to do for this team. Like, they might have just wanted him to take as many shots as he wanted and just kind of go from there.
Yeah, you never know like what guys are being asked to do in Summer League. They're not playing the rules sometimes that they're going to play for the club team, the next level. So who knows? The last guy for me, high-profile guy, is Dennis Smith. I just have a quick comment about him. It is befuddling to me the difference as a shooter with him between pull-ups and off the catch. Like, he is really good off the catch. And then pull-ups, you just saw some wild misses. Like, I think he had like 3 air balls. They weren't even close on pull-up shots. If he gets that shot down, I think it's going to be really effective. But man, I don't think I can remember a player where the divide was so stark. Like, it's pretty commonly noted on Twitter that he was like as good as Lowry Marketing last year on catch and shoot shots. And pull up, he just has to get his footwork down. Maybe it's a natural balance issue. He needs that shot though.
Yeah, and I agree that, you know, it's very concerning because he is someone that has the ball in his hands a lot. Maybe having Luka Doncic next to him will really help his efficiency, because if he can shoot off the catch. I think that it's established at this stage. He did it at NC State, and he did it in his first year in the NBA. But it's also, you know, that difference that you mentioned has been there at NC State. It's been there in the first year of the NBA. So to be a true lead ball handler, you really need to be able to do that. Like, you just have to be able to knock down shots off the dribble. It's an essential skill for today's modern lead guard. But I do think that having a secondary ball handler around him will help. I do want to go back to Phoenix real quick because...
Oh boy.
Dragan Bender. Dragan Bender. Basically had to play every summer league game, which for a third-year player who went 4th overall, not a good sign. 6 points, 5 rebounds a game. Didn't shoot it well from distance. 33% when he really needs to be far higher. 47% true shooting percentage. I did like the fact that he rebounded defensively, but he also had a 24% turnover rate in those 5 games, which gives him, over the course of a 15-game summer league career, a 20% turnover rate. That has to be a record for a top 5 pick. It has to be.
Yeah, I mean, with him, it's all about confidence for me and playing with purpose. And you can just tell he gets shaken mentally with some of these things. Like, some of the passes he made were to nobody. It just looked like he was legitimately cracked in some of these games. He played better in some, like, I think the 4th quarter of the Kings game, he played really good defensively. He's a smart player. I just think sometimes he overthinks things, and the confidence issues with him, the mental toughness of him, I think is a real issue. I think that's going to be where Igor's biggest challenge is, just trying to get this guy optimized, get him thinking the right way, because when he is confident, I think there still is a player there. I think he's kind of caught between a rock and the hard place at the 4 and the 5, kind of like the hybrid of those two things, and that's pretty hard to mesh into a modern NBA lineup. I think you kind of have to play him at 4, honestly, in a lot of different matchups, because he's not going to protect the rim. He's not super physical. But yeah, I mean, it's not great when you have a third-year guy. We still have concerns about the shot as far as the flat trajectory of the shot. Is he ever going to be like a knockdown three-point shooter? He made strides last year. He's going to have to shoot the ball, and that's going to open up a lot of other areas of his game. But you can't really come away from Summer League like super impressed by his play. I think, if anything, it's definitely more disconcerting. I'm not going to give up on him yet. I still think there is ability there. It's just, for me, it seems like a lot of it is mental with him, and I always kind of struggle with that. So Phoenix has like a very real decision to make on his 4th-year option, I think, because, you know, counting Josh Jackson and counting Marquise Chris, who, you know, just given the fact that Chris, they didn't force him to play Summer League, and that they've played him considerably more over the course of their 2-year careers together, it seems like he's ahead of Dragan in the organization's eyes. And Dragan Bender has $5.9 million as a team option for 2019-20. I mean, that's like actually kind of a real number for them, because counting Marquise Chris, counting Josh Jackson, they're at like 79 to 80 million right now. So they could offer like right around a 27, 28, 29 million dollar max contract to someone. Having that space would actually be super useful, I think, to them. And, you know, Dragan Bender diminishes that by 6 million just about. So I would not be surprised if they decline that 4th-year option and maybe say, like, you know, we're willing to negotiate with you. We're willing to, you know, maybe try and re-sign you after declining this option next summer. But at 6 million, we just can't do it. It wouldn't surprise me either. I think they're going to give him 1 year under Igor to really develop him in certain respects. I think that's worth that investment for them, because they've already invested. You're not giving him extra money. I mean, the $6 million, that's going to be interesting as far as the cap ramifications there. But I don't know if Dragan's ever really gotten like a real shake. Like, he hasn't done much with what he's been afforded as far as playing time, but played under Earl Watson, who definitely favored Marquise Chris. I think the Suns would do well to give give him 1 year under Igor to see if they can really develop him. But again, if you decline his option, I don't know if like he's going to command much more than, $5.9 and $6 million anyway. So maybe there's not a lot of downside to that move.
Yeah. I mean, again, like you said, I can't see a world where he gets more than $6 million on the market next summer. Like I just kind of can't right now. So, I mean, like even say that, what do we think his best possible outcome is next year? Something like 9 points and 5 rebounds a game and 20 minutes a game?
Something along those lines. I mean, maybe, I'd say probably holistically something near that. For me, it comes down to the shooting percentage more than anything. Is how well does he shoot from three?
Yeah, like I just don't see how that package of skills gets more than $6 million on the market. And like you can bring him back at a number below that if you really want, but I'd probably want to keep the flexibility, to be honest.
It's definitely a viable argument, and I think it's kind of crazy to say that with a former number 4 pick, but this is the way these things go sometimes.
Yeah, it did not end well, or it has not gone well, I should say. It hasn't ended for Marquise, or for Joggenbender yet. Is there any other, low light from Summer League so far?
I can't really think of anybody else as far as, multi-year guys that was, a legitimate issue. So, no, I think that, if we can move on to the rookies eventually, for them, it's much harder to be disappointing when you're a rookie than a multi-year player. For me, there's a pretty high threshold. Last year, it was Tyler Lydon was disappointing, but the list wasn't enormous.
Yeah, I mean, one guy I do want to talk about real quick that was not a rookie at Summer League this year is Zach Collins. Zach Collins played well defensively, I thought, but the offensive strides concerned me a little bit because he still isn't really finishing well inside. He still doesn't look super comfortable shooting from NBA 3 yet, and they really now need him to be good next year.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Honestly, he doesn't look quite as comfortable from 3 as I expected. Not supernatural. I think he only took 3 in Vegas, so it's not like there's a huge sample there. But the offensive versatility, it's not like he's a high-level passer. He has improved as a passer more than I expected. That was probably his biggest area of weakness in Gonzaga, making decisions. He's been a little bit better there. He's not a great ball handler. So the skill level isn't great if he's not shooting. His primary avenue to value is being a stretch 5. Mm-hmm. That's what he has to do. So if he's not going to do that, then his value long-term takes a legitimate hit.
And then the last guy that I want to bring up here is the legend himself, Gershon Yabusele. Oh, Gershon. Gershon Yabusele. He came in thick. Came in real thick.
Yes, he did. That is an affirmative statement there. The biggest ass I've ever seen on an NBA player. It's just unbelievable.
I think that is right. He looks like a genuine football player. I am not kidding. I think he should try out for the Patriots.
I think he should be a nose tackle. Honestly, that low center of gravity, he can just leverage and out-leverage guys at the point of attack in an offensive defensive line setting. So, yeah, that's a
long
he's
arms,
an interesting one.
Huge ass. I mean, he should be an offensive tackle. He can backtrack. He can keep guys at distance. Perfect position. Go do it, Bill Belichick.
Done.
Because the NBA career, I don't think is going to work out, really.
I agree with you.
Good offensive rebounder. I think that might be his only skill right now.
He can shoot. I'm not sure if he's a real shooter, but he can at least make some shots. But yeah, I'm not super high on Gershon.
Yeah, that's what I think too. He's kind of a fake shooter. He needs to actually shoot the ball to have value.
Yes.
Just not for me. Not for me. Rookies, you wanted to move to rookies. I will give you the floor. Who do you think was the best rookie at Summer League?
That is a convoluted question because a lot of different factors go into it as far as peak performances. I think Shea Alexander's game against Houston might have been the best individual game by a rookie. He was just absolutely ridiculous in that game. He was pasting everybody off the dribble. His first step. I didn't think his first game was actually that impressive. People were like, "Oh, he's been great." And I didn't think he was that impressive. All the stuff that was working for him against Houston, the length extension finishes, the first step, the pull-up ability. We saw a really nice step back, long 2 that he made in the Houston game. That wasn't working for him in the first game. He was getting blocked at the rim. He was off balance on pull-ups. I think he was 1 of 5 on those settings. But man, he was just absolutely, his game against Houston, I was 5 rows up watching that, and I was holy shit.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. His first game, he got wherever he wanted on the floor, which I think is the most important part.
Sure.
He was just kind of everywhere. Like I was down there. That was against Golden State. He was just very omnipresent, I guess is the way to put it, on both ends. He was good on defense throughout Summer League, I thought, too. Still hasn't shot it really all that well yet, but I like the mechanical adjustments. Like, he looks to be getting it up easier in comparison to his time at Kentucky, where it looked a little bit more mechanical.
Yep.
I think he's probably going to shoot it at some point, but in general, I would say he was definitely in my top 3. He might have been the best rookie for me. He was up there.
He's definitely in the top 4 for me. Again, 'cause a lot of criteria here as far as peaks of play, but he was pretty damn good throughout the entire thing, and that one game against Houston was just unreal. I like what you said about the pull-up shooting and the overall shooting. We still don't know if he's going to shoot that pull-up 3 yet. If he gets that down, he's going to be a real problem. Like, that's the thing with him, is if he shoots, he's going to be really good. It's just, can you bank on that at this juncture? I agree that he sped up his release some. He had some really nice step backs that were pretty damn fluid. He created the space. Just comes down to, can he make that shot?
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Another guy I would throw into that mix is Kevin Knox. I would probably take Shea's performance over Knox, but Knox did average 21 a game. He had 6 rebounds a game, shot well from 3. I think he was right around 36%. Finishing at the basket is still a concern anytime that he can't dunk it. But his athleticism looked a lot more fluid at Summer League than it did at Kentucky.
I agree. I'm not sure where I come down on Knox as far as I'm definitely more impressed with him, obviously, in Summer League than I was at Kentucky. He was just more aggressive getting to the rim. He had some really emphatic finishes where he wasn't settling for those floaters. And then you look at kind of the numbers, and I don't like to go too much into stats in Summer League, but he was, when you combine finishing on the basket in the half court with floaters, with post-ups, he was 6 of 30 around the rim in the half court.
Yeah.
That is not great for a guy who has physical advantages in Summer League. I don't know if anybody else had the same level, because he's huge. If you see him in person, he's legit 6'8", 6'9". The frame stands out. His game against the Lakers, where he got on fire in the second half, one of the most impressive, if not the most impressive, stints I saw at Summer League. You can see the scoring when he's really going. He played some pick and roll. We saw him handle a bit in those settings. I'm not sure how real his feel level overall is, but in this setting, his scoring definitely pops. I'm just not quite sold on the overall package yet. I think some people are kind of overreacting to him and saying oh, this guy should have been a top 5 pick.
Oh yeah,
I don't think that. If you watched him at Kentucky, there's no effing way that you're coming to that conclusion. You're just not. I mean, top 10 maybe, sure. That's more defensible, but I'm impressed. I think Knicks fans should be excited about him and Mitchell Robinson, but I'm not quite there with a lot of other people on Knox yet.
Yeah, I think people are freaking a little bit. They're kind of going crazy about him, and I'm not sure how warranted it is. The aggressiveness was good to see, because it's something that he struggled to show regularly.
Yes.
The athleticism was good to see. The fact that they gave him freedom to kind of roll with whatever he wanted to do, I think, played a more significant role in everything, kind of working for him, and statistically him being so impressive, than anything else.
Yeah, he really killed in transition. When he would get out in the open floor, he can get to the rim. If he had space to get to the rim, we saw the explosive finishes. That's where he looked like a little bit more athletic than what he showed at Kentucky, for sure. And I love the aggression. We'll just see kind of how the overall skill set translates more to winning. I do think that the volume scoring here is probably elevating him a little bit more than it should be, even though the flashes were promising.
Let's talk about your guy next, Wendell Carter. I thought Wendell Carter was very good. I thought he was very, very good at Summer League. I do think that people are, again, freaking out a little bit more than they should be. 15 points, 9 rebounds, 55% from the field, 43% from 3. Numbers are great. He looked really good defensively, I thought. If I remember correctly, he was right around 2.5 blocks a game, almost 3 blocks a game maybe. Really competent, professional performance from Wendell Carter at Summer League. I just think that's what you're getting from Wendell Carter. I don't know that you're going to get some people are saying he's a future superstar. I think he's kind of what he was at Summer League. He's a very, very professional, very polished, very, very good basketball player.
He was my pick for best rookie when you factor in consistency. Like, I think he
Totally
was really
cool with
good, really good to great in almost every game. Every game I watched in person, he was that. I know he struggled the other day playing the Pistons. I think he was like 1 of 8 from the floor, but he still had 16 rebounds. He played good defense. You could see the skill package. Like, the issue with him coming in was the space defense. I was a little bit higher on him there than a lot of people were. I still think maybe now it's going the opposite way a little bit too much. Like, this guy's a switch big. I don't think he's that. There's still technique issues he has to work out. But my biggest takeaway with him is his length, his functional reach is really good.
Yep.
Like, it really popped for me in Summer League. Like, his rotation, we knew about the instincts. He's a really high-level team defender. He makes the rotations, but he's long. Like, he affects shots on the perimeter. He affects shots on the interior. He looks a little bit more in shape. I think he shed some of that weight from Duke. He's a worker, man. He looked great physically at the Combine, and I think that's just kind of backed itself up on the floor. I don't know what the hell people are even saying about a superstar. What does that even mean? Like, what are we talking about here? I don't think he's going to be a dynamic offensive creator, but he can do everything well. Like, if he defends in space, there's nothing that guy can't do on the floor that's good. Like, he can shoot. His mechanics, he showed that. I mean, that one offensive rebound play where he tipped it out to himself and hit a corner 3, like, in rhythm, was just like, holy shit. Yeah, you're right. And he was initiating their offense at times. He's a great passer. We knew all these things. He can do everything well. Can he do anything great? That's going to be the key with him. But just the fact that you have a 5 that doesn't take anything really off the table, if it's good enough on space defense, that's hugely valuable. That's why a guy like, I mean, I don't think he's going to be quite the same player as Al Horford, but like that kind of player in the modern game where you're not taking anything off the table and you're adding value in multiple categories, that's insanely valuable.
Say he's Al Horford offensively, but like an average defender instead of being one of the best defenders in the NBA. Like, that's still a very high-level NBA starter.
Absolutely right. Absolutely. I think that's what comes into play with. He has a high floor. I think his ceiling is higher than a lot of people do just because he does so many things well. Like, he can be a better rim protector than Al Horford pretty easily. Like, he has more length. I think his instincts are just as good. He doesn't move quite as well as Horford does on the perimeter, which is where the differences come in. But he's a much more adept shooter coming into the league than Horford was. Yeah. Like, he's already comfortable from 3. We'll see how it translates above the break. I think corner 3s, he looked really comfortable shooting those. So we'll see. I think that, again, if you're viewing this guy now as like some kind of legitimate superstar or like he's going to be switching 1 through 5, I think that's taking it too far. But I don't know how you look at his Summer League performance and say anything negative. Like, it's all positive. Like, everything he did, he was able to stay close enough to these guys to utilize his length defensively, and that's where he's going to win, is because his length really matters.
The last guy I want to talk about before we get into some advertisements is Colin Sexton. He led the Cavs to a very deep run in the Summer League championship, which, doesn't mean anything, but has gotten him some notoriety, I think. Obviously, his intangibles are off the charts just because he is so competitive and, flashes all of those little things that people like to see. I'm a huge fan of all of that. I'm a huge fan of Sexton in general. I had him as the top point guard in this class. I thought all 3 of him, Trae Young and Shea Alexander, were, I think, like 8, 9, 10 on my board. But, I picked Colin to be the best of them, and I thought that his Summer League was exactly what you would expect from Colin Sexton. He was super productive, scoring about 20 points a game, and, I will say that I thought he was a little bit better with distribution than what the numbers would indicate and what I expected in terms of him coming in. Flaws were there, but he was Colin Sexton, and it was beautiful to watch.
He's so fun. Like, that play against Josh Hart, the internet sensation now, it was just a microcosm of Colin Sexton. Like, he's super amped up, and then he doesn't really contest the shot that well. It's just like peak Colin Sexton. I love the kid. He's fantastic. I think the pick and roll scoring, his pull up and mid range looked pretty good. Yep. He was creating the space. He's going to be able to do that. He's aggressive attacking downhill. He draws fouls. That was his biggest thing coming in, was he's adept at drawing fouls, getting to the rim. He's just really physical, tough there. We'll see how the shot translates off the bounce from 3. I still think his creation, I kind of agree with you. Maybe it's a little bit better than he's getting credit for. He's still mostly like a confined passer, though. Like, he doesn't see the skip pass read. He's more of like, he hits the dive man. He hits the simple one pass away. I'm very curious to see how,
more than it's like passing ability.
Yeah, I think it's just instincts, anticipation, vision, that kind of stuff. I don't know if he has. I'm not sure if he's ever going to get that. But I did like a lot of what I saw from him overall. I still think his defense looks better when he's like engaged than it actually really is as far as technical, actual good defense. But if I'm a Cavs fan, I wasn't a huge fan of the pick at 8. I think that they could have gone different ways, but I don't think that his summer league was anything negative. Like, I thought it was like a slight positive for me, even, who came in with much more tempered expectations.
I love Colin Sexton. I will take no slander on this podcast. Lightstream.com. If you're thinking about saving money this summer, why not start by paying less interest on your credit card balances? Refinance with a credit card consolidation loan from Lightstream. It's an easy way to save hundreds to thousands of dollars and lower your interest rate. Lightstream offers credit card consolidation loans from 5.89% APR with autopay. It's lower than the average credit card interest rate of over 18% APR. You could get your funds as soon as the day you apply. Lightstream believes that people with good credit deserve a great interest rate and no fees. So say goodbye to high interest credit cards this summer and start saving with Lightstream. It's a really, really great product. It really is just saving you money. My listeners can save even more with an additional interest rate discount on top of Lightstream's already low rates. The only way to get this discount is to go to lightstream.com/theory. That is lightstream.com/theory, THEORY. That is lightstream.com/theory. This is subject to credit approval. Rate includes a 0.5% autopay discount. Terms and conditions apply, and offers are subject to change without notice. Visit Lightstream for more information. Our second sponsor today is forhims.com. 66% of men start losing their hair by the age of 35. The thing is that when you start to notice hair loss, though, it's much too late. It's easier to keep the hair you got than to replace the hair you've lost. If that hairline is slowly starting to creep backward, if you have any bald spots, it is time to go to forhims.com. It's a one-stop shop for hair loss, skincare, sexual wellness. It's for men. Thanks to science, baldness can now be optional. Hims connects you with real doctors and medical-grade solutions to treat hair loss. These are well-known generic equivalents to name brand prescriptions that help you keep your hair. No snake oil pills, no gas station counter supplements, prescription solutions backed by science. You don't have to go to the waiting room. You don't have to have those awkward doctor visits. You just save hours by going to forhims.com, answering a few quick questions. The doctor will review and prescribe for you. Then products are shipped directly to your door. It's a really, really great product. I think that forhims.com is doing just tremendous work in helping men keep their hair. Your call to action, though, is to order now. My listeners will get a trial month of Hims for just $5 today. Right now, while supplies last. See the website for full details. This would cost hundreds if you went to the doctor or a pharmacy. Go to forhims.com/game theory. That's forhims.com/game theory. GAMETHEORY. Forhims.com/game theory. Cole, let's talk about some of the high draft picks in this class, because I feel like we've kind of hit the middle ground of selections. That 7 to 15 range so far. DeAndre Ayton, I thought, played, I don't want to say like super well at Summer League, but I think that he did what his opportunities were afforded to him that like allowed him to do, basically, which is just awful English. But he averaged like 14 points, 10 rebounds, shot 60% from the field. His guards were atrocious. They really just did not even come close to ever getting him the ball. He was purely a finisher. This is a guy that showed us the ability to pass in college. They didn't even consider using him as like a potential hub to pass out for teammates. It was all, we're giving him the ball and he's going to score. What did we think of his performance and the way he was utilized at Summer League?
I think that's the key. Is it was more in a limited scope. Like, he just wasn't asked to do a lot offensively, especially. He was mostly a dive guy. We saw him against the Mavs where they were chipping the hell out of him. He was pick and diving, and they were putting multiple bodies there. They were crashing down and ruining his ability to catch lobs. They utilized him more that way. It wasn't like a lot of pick and pops. I don't think he shot a three. So I like that he showed the ability to fill a role. Like, he wasn't complaining. He was just kind of doing what was asked of him. He was still rebounding, which is his best overall skill. He was good on the glass. I thought some of the defensive flashes were pretty good. Like, he had one pick and roll play, I think, in his first game where he contained the ice coverage, then he recovered to Jonathan Motley. He got his head around and located the ball again, cut off the baseline drive, then turned around and rotated to the other side of the key, and I think contested a floater attempt. It wasn't verticality, but it was like you saw the reach. Like, his strength and length combination is going to matter around the basket. I think that's the key takeaway, but for me personally, he didn't really pop because I don't think he was asked to really do that much. Like, he didn't dribble. We didn't see a lot of – he doesn't really dribble in college either. We didn't see a lot of the passing, even though he did show unselfishness. I thought that was probably his best individual trait offensively outside of rebounding was, like, when he did get the ball in the post, we can actually hold position, and the guards got him the ball. Like, he did show the comfort to kind of step away, take an escape dribble, and then hit somebody out of a double team on like a skip, for example. So, again, I don't think it was bad. I don't know how you can really react in extreme fashion on either end. Like, I don't think, like, a lot of people will say, like, oh, he looks like a bust or he looks like a superstar. He was fine.
Yeah, I agree with you. He was fine. Like, he was just kind of asked to do something limited and did it. He'll be in a much better position in Phoenix's regular season rotation, I think, because Igor will likely kind of open up the playbook a little bit more, give him more opportunities to finish around the basket. But, you know, in this setting, he took 9 shots a game, which for like a number 1 pick in a setting like this is kind of crazy. It just goes to show how guard dominated these games often are, because there's no sense of continuity. There's no sense of chemistry there because these teams get so quickly assembled.
Yeah, I think the overall point with Ayton is he just didn't the ball in a lot of advantageous situations that were allowed him to showcase his versatility. He didn't, like, L.A. Kobo was by far Phoenix's best passer. He came off the bench. You know, Shaquille Harrison started with Josh Jackson. We've already talked about Josh. Didn't really pass the ball that much. So I think that some of it was honestly Ayton's inability to leverage his positioning as well. He got pushed off his spots at times. Guys fought over the top of him and denied entries, but he wasn't getting a lot of help from teammates, especially in that Sacramento game where everybody was pointing out, of course, the lack of entry pass ability. So I do think that the toughness issues, like we talked kind of the physicality with him, maybe it's not going to be dominant at the level you expect. I mean, his abilities are going to deteriorate as he moves up competition. We know that playing against better athletes. I think he even noted that against Harry Giles. He just hasn't played against an athlete like that. But again, I don't have any like extreme reactions to him. I think he was kind of what I expected.
Speaking of Sacramento, let's move on and talk about Marvin Bagley. Not gonna lie, as someone who was generally high on Marvin Bagley coming into the NBA, a little bit concerned, a little bit worried.
For me, it's more about situation than anything. Like, we didn't do a post-draft podcast, but for how the Kings have kind of went about this process, we talked about positionally, it was most important for Bagley, in my opinion, at the top of the draft. Like, playing him at the 5 as a play finisher was huge. And it looks like he's going to be playing the 4 or even maybe the 3 at times.
No, don't say that. Don't say that.
It's unbelievable, dude. Like, but we saw the different ways that he was utilized. It's like in the mid-post and something. And like, my biggest issue with him is he looks super predictable on the floor. Yeah. Like, because you know he's not using his right. He's going back to his left. He got a shot blocked, I think, 3 times that I saw because he's even attacking right. He tries to like float it up with his left hand. It's going to be a process. He's being utilized kind of like Blake Griffin in that way, like a mid-post guy. I'm not sure if he can carve out position enough. Like, Derek Jones pretty much shut him down in that game that they played. He did have some good performances. I thought it was kind of up and down for Bagley overall. It's not really as much of an indictment on him as a player. It's more like, is he going to be put into a position to succeed? Which, again, I thought of all these prospects, it was most imperative for him.
Yeah. Everything for him was like mid-post. And the biggest thing that did was it took what might be the best offensive rebounder in the class away from the offensive glass.
Yep.
Like, what are we doing here? He shot like 2.5 threes a game. Why? Why are you hurting me, Sacramento? Why do you try and hurt my life? I don't understand.
You want him to be utilized like a Mitch Robin with New York. He's a guy in pick and roll. He's a play finisher. That's his best trait, is his ability to operate in pick and roll. If you're going to mid-post him, like you said, you take away the offensive rebounding ability, the ability to finish around the rim, and you double down on his predictability as a face-up guy, again, with his lack of right hand. So not exactly the best position to put him in.
Yeah, not great by Sacramento. Surprise. Dave Yeager didn't do something all that great. He was not good. He was not good at Summer League at all. And you don't want to overreact because, as you said, like rookies, they're going to be bad. They're going to be average. They're going to struggle at times. These things happen. It's fine. But he was particularly concerning, I would say. Just concerning. We'll leave it at that. I guess that the next most high-profile player, like we could talk about Jaren. I mean, Jaren was awesome at Summer League. Do we need to say anything more than that? Like his shot looked great. He protected the rim well. He rebounded well. Everything that you would expect Jaren Jackson to do, he did.
He was awesome. I mean, I love that guy. Like the way you love Colin Sexton, I love Jaren Jackson. Like that's my dude. He's so impressive to watch in person. Like he's a guy I really try to get close seat for, just to watch how he interacts on the floor. Just really enjoys the game, but plays with like a competitive fire at the same time. Just to hear him call out coverages as a defensive player, kind of quarterbacking the defense already. I love that shit. And like his comfort level already shooting above the break threes, pick and pops, even off motion. We saw in the Utah Summer League, man, that first game where he hit like 8 threes, the 2 pull-ups were kind of, you can throw those out. But a lot of that stuff, some of that was off movement. And if he can do that and kind of operate as that stretch, he'll play probably a lot of stretch 4 for Memphis. But if he can ultimately play the stretch 5 for them, and he's a pick and pop threat, and you can play 5 out, and he's going to knock down shots like that off movement too, he's going to be a monster, man. Like I came into Summer League kind of with not a popular consensus opinion. I had my 2 best bigs in the class were Jaren Jackson and Wendell Carter, and I came away from Summer League like I'm not going to say I'm right, but I feel good about it. I think both players kind of showed what I expected them to. We'll see how high the ceiling is. Jaren struggled to finish through contact, explode through guys around the rim. We saw the ball handling. He did show comfort there. He shows a little bit more proclivity as a passer, but he's going to be really good, man. This is going to be a hot take. I'd be surprised if he didn't eventually win one Defensive Player of the Year award. I think he's that freaking good defensively.
No, I actually think I agree with you on that. Like, I don't even know that it's hot just because Defensive Player of the Year award is literally best defender in the world at some point. But like, I think I agree. I think he's going to get to that level. The offensive stuff is concerning. The fact that he still can't finish inside is a problem. He shot 50% from 3 and shot like 37% or something from 2-point range. He really needs to become a better finisher inside. He needs to just find like a little bit more bounce, or maybe just as he continues to add strength, it will continue to improve there. But that's the biggest concern right now for him. Trae Young, kind of an interesting Summer League, I would say. Really passed it well, I thought. Really was disastrously bad in Utah. Really was very good, I thought, in Vegas. Didn't shoot it all that well over the large sample from 3, but was a lot better again in Vegas. The creativity I thought was there. The lack of strength was also there. He's a prospect of polarizing skills right now. In terms of, by that I mean like not polarizing in terms of popular opinion, but polarizing in terms of skills that are at the opposite end of the spectrum. Like his strength, he's probably going to be in the bottom 1% of strength in the NBA in his first season, but he will probably be in the top 5% of vision in the NBA next season. His pull-up jump shot is unbelievably good for a player his age, but his shot selection is a travesty half the time. Like it's very difficult to kind of predict where this is going to go.
He's a very divisive player. We'll say that. I mean, a lot of his qualities, a lot of guys don't really value that highly. I will say that, like, what gives him a lot of safety for me is the passing. And, like, that's where, like, the Trey Burke, Shabazz Napier kind of comparisons of that ilk kind of fall by the wayside, is because even when Trey wasn't shooting well, he was still passing at a high level. He still sees every single pass on the floor. Whether he can make those at his size, I think he's going to have to adjust to the length and the athleticism, even with bigger passing lanes. There was this one play where he passed Aaron Holiday in the Pacers game. He tried to throw a skip, and Holiday was like right in his hip, and he's just too long. Like he deflected the pass. It was a turnover. He has to get. This is going to be a process with him, man. Like my biggest takeaway in a negative fashion was hearing from a lot of the executives down there, or some executives, that he was kind of entitled in the workout process. If he thinks this is going to be easy, it's not going to be easy. It's never been easy for a 6'2" guard that doesn't have top shelf level athleticism and has a strength disadvantage. So he's going to have to work, and for all intents and purposes, he's a hard worker, but he has to be self-aware too. I'm not worried about the shooting. I think that's going to be fine. He just has to get the timing stuff down. He's going to have to win with craft, win with just change of pace, change of speeds. I thought he was better creating separation when he relied more on these deceptive moves, when he had these large hitting hang dribbles where he really used the threat of his shot. I think he shook Grayson Allen really bad in Utah. He started getting to the rim more, or around the rim more in that Indiana game, beating Aaron Holiday in the second half. But a lot of the quick crossover stuff and through the leg stuff, he's not going to be able to execute at the same level he did in college because he can't hold advantages with his strength. Like, even if he beats you by a half a step, he can't keep you on his hip. I saw Ntilikina absolutely engulf him on one of these drives because he's just not strong enough. So he's going to have to – it's going to be a process with him. He's going to have to get acclimated to the speed of the game and all of that, and he's going to have to iron out some of these issues with shot selection, man. He'll take like 3 or 4 bad shots a game. Like, he'll be drifting to the right on threes. He won't be balanced, and that's like his main thing with his pull-up. He's usually always on balance. I don't think he made one of those drifting threes that I saw. Yeah. So he's going to have to work out the kinks over time. I'm still buying stock. I know a lot of guys are worried. I've been buying up all the Trey stock I can. I'm impressed with what I saw. But I will say, my last point here is that his inability to really play off the ball offensively, I'm not sure how much of it was scheme-based. In Oklahoma, I thought you could chalk up to conserving energy, but he's not instinctual relocating off the ball, and I think that's an easy avenue for him to be better. If he gets like access to like 3 or 4 maybe catch and shoot threes, that's what makes Steph so freaking brilliant. And that's where the Steph comparison, I mean, there's a lot of reasons that comparison falls through, but Steph is so good. He's so wired to move without the ball. Trey has that Dennis Smith syndrome where he gives it up and he wants it back. He doesn't like run off screens. He doesn't instinctually move to open space. If he could do that, he would be absolutely lethal as an off-ball player, too. So that was the one big negative. I mean, we know about the defense overall, but the one big negative for me was that it doesn't seem like he has those off-ball offensive instincts.
That's a really good point in terms of just him needing to develop basketball IQ off of the ball. Because that, like, watching him and Tyler Dorsey, like, just kind of switch off demanding the ball back from the other one in Summer League this year was kind of frustrating.
Oh, boy.
You know, that, like, I'm someone who's not even out on Tyler Dorsey, really. Like, a lot of people are very frustrated with watching Tyler after Summer League. I think he's fine. But, like, there are real concerns there in terms of him really needing to develop that intelligence away from the ball. Mohamed Bamba, I thought, was fine. He still can't establish position. He still just absolutely swallows everything that comes near him at the basket. Rebounds well, offensively and defensively. Efficient enough. The jump shot, he knocked down, like, I think 2 or 3 threes, like, at Summer League. It was fine. He was fine at Summer League. I have no real strong takes on Mohamed Bamba.
For me, I kind of deviate a little bit from popular consensus. I think that Kevin O'Connor quote tweeted me about something during Summer League and said that, like, Bamba already did everything else, but the shot's a cherry on top. I actually view the shot as kind of vital to him. Honestly, that's why I was more intrigued as the process went on. I didn't think he was going to do that much. I mean, like, even in Summer League, you can see the guys can get into his body when he dives to the rim, and you can take out his legs. He's not DeAndre Jordan. He's not finishing contact like that as a rim runner. His ability to pick and pop, I think, is his biggest vehicle to offensive success. I think he kind of needs that. And the strides that he showed, watching him shoot up close in person, you can definitely tell the work he's done with handling. It looks like he's capable when he has time and space. A lot of the shots fives get in the league are unguarded anyway. And like you said, I think he was 2 of 4 from 3. It just looked more fluid. I think he needs to shoot. That's my main thing. A lot of him still comes with physical upside and being able to leverage better, developing that lower body strength, that girth. But if he doesn't shoot the ball from 3, I become far less interested in him.
Yeah, I think that I agree with you that he needs to be able to shoot. The last guy in the top 10 we haven't talked about, we should just mention really quickly, I guess, Mikal Bridges. I thought Mikal was as professional as I expected Mikal Bridges to be from day one in the NBA and in Summer League. He was just very, very good every single time he took the floor. And I don't know that there's a crazy amount of upside there, but he can really shoot it, and he can, provide very switchable defense, I would say.
Yeah, he's a guy that can shoot the ball. He can shoot off motion. We saw in that first game where there are guys that are right in his face contesting him. His release point is special. He can shoot over the top of most players that are perimeter guys in the league, even over contests.
where people start to ride with evaluating him is like, oh, he's not passing the ball. He didn't have a lot of assists. He didn't have a lot of rebounds. He didn't dribble the ball well. It's like, but what he does do is really valuable, which is shoot the ball off motion for a wing, which is the most important skill, and then defensively not make a ton of mistakes. He's a good team defender. He's fairly switchable. I'm not sure. He got powered through a couple times getting to the basket. He doesn't have ideal athleticism or ideal strength, but he's really long and he's smart. And I think that he can, in that system, he's a guy who's not going to use a lot of possessions. He's going to be a floor spacer. And we saw the gravity effect. Like, teams are clinging to him on the weak side of pick and roll. They're like, we're not leaving this dude in the corner. And that's going to be a lot of his value, too.
Let's talk about some second rounders and some guys that, undrafted guys even, that kind of stepped up and looked good. We should talk about Mitchell Robinson because he blocked 4 shots a game and was just crazy athletic for this level. Even for like NBA level athletes, he was wildly athletic. He did exactly what we know he is capable of. He can block shots. He can finish around the basket. He has no idea where his limbs are at any time on the floor, I feel like. He's going to foul a ton, and I don't know where it goes from here.
I will say I loved the dice roll with him, and I love the contract especially. I tweeted about that earlier today. Like getting the 4 years, but the team option in the third, very minimal risk. If he hits, you can do it in Denver with Nikola Jokic. You decline the option, he's a restricted free agent. I was pretty impressed with him overall. I went back and watched him on Synergy last night because I saw him sporadically in person. I mean, pretty obvious role at the next level offensively. Basically a dive guy, good rim runner. He finishes around the basket. Awesome on the offensive glass. He was really good there in Summer League. Probably the best offensive rebounder in Summer League. Defensively, we see the range. We see all the tools, man. Like his ability to cover ground, like blocking some of these shots. He's got really good anticipation on when guys are going to pull up for shots, so he can test those really well. He's an impediment around the rim. He's very interesting to watch because I don't look at him and think he's like hyper coordinated. It's really weird. Like his style, I think you kind of described it well with his not having really control over his limbs. He kind of seems like that, right? He's kind of just doing shit on the floor, and you're like, he doesn't look that fluid, like purposeful and stuff like that. But I think his awareness defensively was actually a little bit better than I thought it was going to be. Like he has a pretty good idea as a team defender. He over rotates, which is I like to see for bigs. Like get to the rim, protect the paint. He has good feel for that. We'll kind of see how it plays out long term. There's a lot of technical issues with his defense as far as the high hips. I thought a couple times in pick and roll defense he was too far bent over. He was giving up easy dives to the rim. It's going to be a project with him in a process. I think he's going to foul a lot, like you noted, his rookie year especially. But the upside for me is considerable, and you don't see guys like him physically fall to 36 very often.
Shout out to the Tariq Black Memorial most fouls at Summer League award winner Zhou Qi. He averaged 6 fouls per game at Summer League. Mitchell Robinson was second at 4.8. That was an enjoyable watch every time that those two guys took the floor because, good Lord, they were just out there swatting, and they didn't know where their limbs were going to end up. They were just out there swatting. I think that we should talk about DeAnthony Melton. He was awesome defensively. His jump shot looked a lot better. Basically everything that he did was the absolute best possible scenario that you could have expected from him in his first Summer League. 16 points, 4 assists, 7 rebounds. The length and the desire to really get in that mix, rebounding the basketball, showed out, I thought. And then additionally, 3 steals a game, the length, the anticipation, everything that you were hoping for really, really played itself out there.
Agree with all that. The shot especially looked more fluid to me. He hit 7 pull-up threes in Summer League. He hit 2 college threes off the dribble in the half court at USC. It just looks much more fluid. His confidence level, I did not expect him to be that confident as a shooter. Like, there's no hesitation with him. He's already adept, just catching immediately, going up. If he can shoot the ball, we've been saying that. Like, he's legit. I had him 13th on my board. I was really high on him, and I saw nothing to really dissuade that. It's going to be a deep class, but I think that Houston got an absolute steal here. He's a really good scheme fit for them because they play so much stationary 1-5 pick and roll. Off the catch, he looked pretty. I mean, he didn't shoot the ball well off the catch in Summer League, but mechanically, I thought, like, catching on the hop, he was pretty fluid there. He's not going to have to shoot a ton off motion, and he's just a guy who can really be a defensive irritant, really outrageously good team defender. We saw the instincts, like you noted, the length, all that stuff. I think the Rockets hit a home run here. I think he's going to return top 14, top 15 value in this class.
2 guys that I liked in general. I liked both of the Pistons picks, Bruce Brown and Kyrie Thomas. I thought that both basically played the role that you would have expected them to play. Bruce Brown did everything that you would anticipate, from averaging 12, 7, and 3 while playing great defense to shooting 29% from the field. Kyrie Thomas, again, was a good little corner three-point shooter and played well on both ends of the floor, I thought. 10 points, shot 45% from 3 and averaged 2 steals a game, because that's what Kyrie Thomas does. I think both of those guys are going to step in and be rotation players for them immediately.
I think I agree with you there. I didn't see as much of Detroit as I'd like, but I saw the first half of, I think, their game against Toronto, and both guys were actually playing pretty well. Kyrie had a really good half. We saw a little bit the off-ball cutting awareness, the ability to make a spot three, and then he can defend. I'm not sure if he's going to be athletic or big enough to really be an impact defensive player. That was kind of always my reservation with him, but he's smart. He's a smart overall defensive player, and I think Bruce Brown is going to come down to the shot. We know what he is as an athlete. He can create a little bit. He can dribble and pass. It's just going to come down to if he can shoot it all off the catch, because I don't think it's ever going to be there for him off the dribble. So if he shoots well off the catch, I think he can be a rotation player.
The Tom Thibodeau Memorial Award for most minutes played at Summer League goes to, surprise, to Tom Thibodeau guys, Keita Bates-Diop and Josh Okogie. They averaged 33.8 and 32.6 minutes per game, respectively. Stay hot, Tom Thibodeau. I like both of them at Summer League, to be honest. I thought they were excellent. Keita Bates-Diop didn't shoot well from 3. That was something that I sneaky heard he did not do well in workouts, but I think he's going to shoot it well at some point just because he's strong. He has a great release point. He gets a clean release. I'm not super worried about the jump shot, kind of transitioning long term. He did everything else really well. He rotated well defensively. He rebounded the ball, kind of got his hands in passing lanes. He was really, really just an overall solid player. And then Josh Okogie kind of did everything that you were hoping to see from him as well, except score efficiently. He was someone who we worry about in terms of his ability to finish around the basket, because he's not super explosive, or at least doesn't play with that high level explosiveness, but he's going to be productive. I think he just knows how to get his shot and find those cutting lanes in a way that I think is going to work well in the NBA.
I agree. Both guys impressed. I like the value of Bates-Diop in the second round where they got him. I wasn't on board with him in the top 25, but late in the second round, I think that you just take a dice roll on this guy, and his length was a factor. They played him at some small 5 in the game I watched, which was kind of intriguing down the road. So versatile there. We'll see how well he shoots. That's going to be the key with both of these guys. Okogie didn't shoot well at this event either. I have some reservations about his decision-making still, but in the game I watched, he was actually a better off-ball defender than I expected. So we'll see how it translates, but at least I got the process behind both of these selections. I think they make a lot of sense. 2 undrafted guys that I want to mention who I think realistically probably earned their two-way contracts. Alonzo Trier had 17 points a game on 45% shooting while only hitting 18% of his threes. We kind of assume that he's going to shoot, right? Realistically, he's probably going to be able to shoot from 3. I would think so. He was proficient. He had shot diversity. He could shoot off the bounce in Arizona. Of all the things in his game, I would be least worried about the shooting, I think.
Yeah, and the fact that he averaged 17 points a game while shooting like shit from 3, I think says a lot about what his creativity level is. I know he played a ton of minutes, but he actually was, I thought, really good, and he also showed some passing ability. He averaged 3.2 assists per game, got to the foul line as much as you would expect him to do. A lot of what his game is translated to this level.
Sure, absolutely.
And then the second guy I want to mention is Trayvon Blewett, because he was really fun, I thought, throughout the Summer League performance. He had the 2 really, really strong games to start where he had 26 and 24 points. But overall, 18.2 points per game, shot 54% from 3, 57% from the field. He's just one of those guys who kind of gets his bucket regardless of what setting he's in.
Yeah, I didn't actually get to see a lot of him, unfortunately, so I don't have much to comment on. One guy for me that stood out consistently, because for some reason I ended up watching 4 of their games, is Marcus Derrickson for Golden State.
Love him.
He was good. He was their second best player behind Jordan Bell, in my opinion. He was better than Jacob Evans in Summer League. His size really stands out. He can shoot the ball, mid-post stuff. He can just shoot over the top. He can space from 3. I think that was a find, man. I would not be surprised if he made the regular Warriors roster eventually. He looked really good.
He should absolutely get one of their two-way contracts. Like, any team
100%.
should give him one of their two-way contracts. He was very good. Duncan Robinson earned himself a two-way contract. That's one of the cooler stories. Division III kid, played his last 2 years at Michigan, shot the ever-loving hell out of the ball at Summer League, 55.3%, and that's one of the best ways to get on a NBA team's radar, is to shoot the hell out of the ball. And he can do that. Like, there are no questions that he's going to be able to shoot the ball at any level he plays at.
Totally agree there. I think just getting back to the second round real quick, four guys really pop for me. We've talked about Mitchell Robinson, DeAnthony Melton. I think we got to mention Shvi Mikhailuk a little bit here. He's been really impressive. Yeah. If you watch him shoot in person, he's one of those guys where every time he shoots, you think it's going in.
Yep.
He showed some shot diversity, a little bit off the dribble game. He's I don't want to say sneaky athlete, but he kind of is. As far as utilizing
definitely,
that,
like, if you remember when he came out of like the Ukraine, like, he was known as an athlete first, not a shooter. But the shot like kind of came along. You could always see the mechanics were there for him to be a really good shooter. And with the athleticism and the shot, he's going to be fine. It's the length is hilarious in that he has a -3 wingspan, but like, he's going to be fine. I think when you can shoot it like he can, you're going to be good.
I mean, there's a chance that he's the best Laker pick in the draft. Like, I don't think that's like, Bonga didn't really do anything for me. Seeing him in person, yeah. I wasn't like blown away.
I would expect that fine. He is, to be honest.
Like, he looks like that. I mean, he's definitely been the best to me in Summer League, and who knows if that has a ton of value, but I don't think we can rule that out. I think that he actually looks like a pretty good. He's one of the four guys that popped for me in the second round, and the last guy is, of course, we already talked about briefly, Elia Kobo. His first game was really impressive. I think the pace he plays with in pick and roll, he utilizes his body really well to create separation. He's not a dynamic athlete, but I think when you put together the pull-up jumper with his ability to pass, his reads were actually pretty good. Just a really high-level poise for a player his age. So I think that was a really interesting pick by the Suns at 31. I'm not sure if I'm totally buying him yet. Like, some people I think have said that he's the best point guard in the class. I'm not anywhere near that. But I do think that it was well worthwhile to take him at 31. I do think he has starter upside.
Yeah, whoever's saying that off of this performance is going a little wild, going a little crazy, but that's okay.
What happens, man?
Vlatko Čančar, I thought was interesting. Like 6'10", shoots threes, averaged like 9 points and 3 rebounds while starting for Denver. 38% from three. I'm just saying he looked okay. Anthony Simons, Portland's 24th overall pick. I thought that he looked really good at this level for being an 18-year-old. 12 points a game, 3 rebounds. They didn't ask him to distribute at all, but the shot looked good, especially from 3, and the athleticism in terms of him getting separation translated.
Yeah, I have a really poor read on him, just like you noted with the role he was playing. He did not play make at all out of pick and roll. It was more like used as like kind of a pure 2 guard. Yep. His release is really impressive, quick release, started off the catch. He looked comfortable. He moved really well in space defensively. Like, he's very quick. I didn't see a lot. He had one really nice hesitation dribble into a pull-up that was really intriguing. I know he gets a lot of poor man's faults. I don't know if I'm to that point yet. I just haven't seen enough of him, and I have to really assess his feel level. But yeah, I agree with you. He was definitely a pleasant surprise. Like, I was expecting a much worse performance from him, and he actually he was pretty impressive in certain respects.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's what he is. I think he's poor man's faults. We'll see how valuable that is as a 2 guard, but like, that's his game. He's a scorer who can get separation and is like a very good athlete.
Yep.
I think that's about all I got. Like, we could talk about guys like Devin Robinson. Like, he played well. I mean, I don't know. Is there anyone else you want to point out?
Did anybody disappoint you out of like the first round guys? I mean, we have to factor in our previously held positions. Like, I didn't think Jerome Robinson should have gone 13th or something. I didn't think he looked like the 13th pick in the draft in Summer League. He shot the ball okay, and I could see the offensive ability. DiVincenzo didn't really pop for me in his one game, but he hasn't played a lot of minutes. Did anybody really like disappoint you?
Honestly, no. Like, I really don't think so. Like, if you really wanted to like get into the weeds, like, maybe you could say Jerome Robinson. Maybe you could say, like, I thought Lonnie Walker's performance was like remarkably overrated throughout Summer League, but I wouldn't say he played bad. Like, I thought that he just was inefficient and the shots didn't fall. It was just like it was whatever. Jacob Evans, maybe Jacob Evans.
That's where I was going. just based on previous expectation. Like his shot still doesn't look right to me. He's shooting more out, not up. Really flat shot. Watching him shoot in person, I think he just looked much better shooting the ball in college. But it's a great situation for him. Like I don't see him failing with the Warriors. I think they'll figure that stuff out. But if he went to another team, he didn't look like the player that I thought he would. But I'm not overly worried about him. Amari Spellman, we both weren't really that high on. Yeah. I thought he struggled a lot as far as above the break on threes. I think I saw him make one total as far as pick and pops. I'm not sure how well his shot's going to translate, but he has good touch. He's probably a good bet to shoot threes at a realistic clip. It's just I wasn't as blown away with his floor spacing ability above the break.
Yeah, I mean, like I mean, it's just not something for me that I'm going to be like, concerned about a guy that I had at like number 50 on my board. I don't think he played well, and it shouldn't really come as a surprise, I guess, that he didn't play well. Maybe like I had Melvin Frazier really high on my board. Like I had him like at 20 or so, and he's someone who didn't play super well. I didn't think he was very aggressive defensively and really got his hands into passing lanes and did everything I expected on that end. But he was a nightmare offensively. Like he was not good on that end. So I mean, maybe that's one guy, but I mean that entire Orlando team was just all length and no space. So I don't know what to think of him offensively.
And get used to that recipe for them this year, because that's a carryover to their regular team, all like no space. I guess my last question for you is like, how do you feel about, like, not necessarily your specific rankings, but your general feel on the class? Do you feel good about it after Summer League, or how do you go from there? I
mean, like I had Marvin Bagley 3. I'd probably slide him down a little bit after this. Like I'm pretty worried. But I guess that a lot of that comes from situation, as you said too. So like I don't know. Like I'm not really overreacting to anything I've seen yet. I might have Shea at like I might move Shea up a little bit to be the best point guard, and then like slide Colin and Trey down 1 or 2 spots, just like 1 spot each maybe.
Sure.
Like I don't think I would move Kevin Knox much higher up. Maybe like a couple spots. Like everyone would be in the same range, I think. Like maybe Bagley would be the only one that I'm super worried about, but that has more to do with him being in Sacramento than it does like his game and his skill.
Yeah, I agree. And I think for me, the 2 Kentucky guys came in a little lower on both, and both looked better than I expected at this level. Shea with his ability to get where he wants basically at will. If he shoots, I'm going to be low on him. I had both, I think, 15, 16. So I liked both, but I wasn't like buying heavily into both. And I think that both give me reason to be kind of trepidatious about that choice. But other than that, I think that everybody kind of lived up to what we expected for the most part.
Yeah, I mean, it was Summer League. There's not really another way to put it. Cole, tell the people where they can find your work. Tell the people what's going on.
As usual, on thestepin.com, I just wrote, I think a week and a half ago, a piece on Derek White and how I expect him to translate this year for the Spurs when using some Summer League footage from Utah as evidence there, really high in his game. We talked about him on this podcast, so check that out on the Step In. And as usual, continue to listen to this podcast.
We'll be back at some point next week with some more really interesting stuff on, I don't know what we'll talk about, but we will talk about some things. But until next time, please go rate, review, and subscribe to this podcast on iTunes, SoundCloud, Google Play, Android, Overcast, Pocket Casts, whatever casts you use. Please go on ahead and hit that 5-star rating. It really helps us move up in the ratings. Shout out to Lightstream.com. Shout out to forhims.com. Shout out to Devin Downey and the CBS Sports College Basketball Podcast. Let's go crazy here. Until next time, though, we'll talk soon. Bye.